commute turns fiery when a tanker truck explodes on I-15. You can see the time-lapse pictures here showing the skies over Salt Lake filling with smoke. You could pretty much see the evidence of the crash from anywhere in the Salt Lake Valley today. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
The crash happened here at 88 South in Sandy and shut down I-15 in both directions. 2 News' Leanne Lobb begins our team coverage live at the scene. And Leanne, do investigators know what triggered the crash?
Well, Ron, police now say it looks like it all started with an impatient driver. The accident happened around 8:15 this morning when a northbound motorist was weaving in and out of traffic. He apparently cut in front of a belly dump truck, forcing him to slam on his brakes. That set off a chain reaction involving another belly dump truck and then a fuel tanker. The 3 vehicles collided. There was a huge explosion. A fireball went into the air. Witnesses say they could see flames and smoke up hundreds of feet in the air. There was also spilled fuel from that fuel tanker, which also caused more problems. Several businesses in the area were evacuated. The freeway was shut down. Police say it was a real mess. Emergency crews arrived. Cleanup crews from the airport even arrived to help put the fire out. Witnesses say that it was one of the worst accidents they had ever seen.
The back tank was on fire when I got here, and then after that the front tank caught on fire and it exploded a few times. I could feel the heat from over a block away from it. It was amazing.
Police now say there is 1 confirmed fatality. They say one of the truck drivers is now confirmed dead. They don't know about anything else right now as far as survivors go or victims of the crash, because still, as you can see, there is a big mess behind me. They are now just moving equipment in to try and get the mess cleaned up. They say they're not sure quite what they have. They don't suspect they're going to find anyone else in the wreckage, but they say really at this point, until they get everything cleaned up, they just don't know what they're going to find. Ron and Mary, back to you.
Leanne, what do we know about the person who actually caused the accident?
Police say they cannot find that motorist. Apparently, that motorist, after causing the accident, continued to go on and did not stop. So they're also asking for anyone's help. If you saw anything, if you're a witness here and have any information that might help them out, they would appreciate a phone call.
They may not even know that they caused the whole thing.
They may not even know, but they say they just continued on, and so at this point, no, they don't know the motorist that caused the accident.
And we heard a report earlier, Leanne, that there was maybe 1 person missing. Is that still unknown?
Not right now, Mary. Now they have just confirmed that there was the 1 fatality.
Okay.
Also, we might want to point out, of course, the freeway is shut down right now. It's probably going to be several hours before they reopen the freeway. As you can see, it is a big mess. Once they get this cleaned up and complete the investigation, then they've got to assess the damage to the freeway, and it might take some time to get that fixed.
And which driver was killed? Was it the tanker truck driver or the gravel truck driver?
They are not saying at this point.
They're not saying. Okay.
Quite a mess down there.
Yeah, we'll have another update coming up in about 30 minutes live from the scene from Leanne. Thanks a lot, Leanne. Well, how can you steer clear of all the trouble out there on the freeway today?
Well, Debbie Worthen continues our team coverage with a look at traffic right now. Debbie, how can people get around all this?
Well, Mary, it looks like right now as you head northbound on I-15, your last chance to get off of the freeway is at 118th South. This exit puts you on to State Street in Sandy, and State Street is actually going to be one of your ideal alternates as you make your way through Sandy and Murray today. Now, as you head south, I-15 is closed at the south interchange. So as you head either east or west on 215, you can take Redwood Road or State Street to 123rd South, where you can then get back on the freeway. For the afternoon commute, you'll want to stay clear of I-15 through Sandy and Draper. The UDOT Incident Management Team says the freeway will be closed at least 8 more hours. That's because once the wreck is cleared off the road, they will need to repair it. Now, also, crews had to break down the cement Jersey barrier on southbound I-15 so they could turn around those southbound motorists, and once they get that taken care of, then they will be able to allow traffic through. So it looks like for the afternoon commute, State Street, 13th West, or Redwood Road are your best alternates. Mary?
It's a horrible mess. I imagine people were about 3 or 4 hours late for work this morning if they were stuck in that.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Oh, thanks for the alternates for this afternoon. We'll have to pay attention to that. Thanks, Debbie.
Well, the weather was certainly big.
Interstate 15 came to a standstill this morning after a gasoline tanker overturned and caught fire. The 4-alarm fire threw off a plume of black smoke visible to commuters across much of the valley. And right now, portions of I-15 are still closed, along with other freeways in the area.
The driver of that tanker truck died in the accident.
It happened just after 8 this morning. Now, the truck driver rolled his tanker about 8:15 near 90th South along northbound I-15. Both north and south lanes of the interstate are closed, and will remain closed for several more hours.
We have team coverage on today's accident. News specialist Angela Ann joins us live from I-15 near 8600 South. Pamela Davis is also live from near the accident scene to show us how freeway construction may have contributed to that accident. And Coco Nebaker is live from our traffic center to show us just how congested the roads are right now. Angela? First, we go to news specialist Angela Ann, who is live from the accident scene. What can you tell us about the latest, Angela?
Carol, the freeway remains shut down both north and southbound. The accident is on the southbound side. As you can see behind me, the wreckage is still sitting on the freeway. The fire is out, but there are still some hot spots and some gas left over in the tanker. Now, somewhere in this heap of burnt metal is the victim who died. Police say they believe the victim is the driver of one of the semi-trucks involved in the crash. Now let's take a look at what the crash explosion looked like at 8 o'clock this morning. Fire and smoke billowing hundreds of feet into the air. The column of smoke stretched pretty much the entire length of the Salt Lake Valley. Police say this fiery crash was caused by one person who tried to get off the 90th South exit, decided not to, and then decided to cut back into traffic and swerve in front of the semi-trucks, and that is when the chain reaction started.
A belly dump, also traveling northbound, had to hit its brakes, which was followed by another belly dump that had to hit its brakes, which collided together, followed by a semi-tanker, which plowed into the back of those two semis.
Flames about 50 feet up in the air. And we watched it from there for a little bit, and then we got a little closer, and you could just feel the heat. We were probably about 100 feet away from it, and you could just feel the heat coming off of it.
A lot of sounds like explosions, you know, a lot of noise, and we saw some big flames and stuff like that. It was pretty high. It looked like a volcano shooting out of the top of the tanker trailer.
Now, along with the 3 belly dump trucks, the 1 gas tanker, we understand there are at least 2 other cars involved. Those drivers are all accounted for, but until fire crews can remove the wreckage and take it apart, there is no telling if any other cars were trapped inside. Now, some fuel from the tanker did leak into a drainage system. The health department is on the scene right now monitoring the gas, but they believe that there is no danger from that. But there is definite road damage to the freeway, both north and southbound, and that is why the freeway will remain shut down until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Again, 1 person is dead. Another person is in the hospital right now receiving some x-rays, and we believe that all the other drivers are accounted for and are okay. Let's check in now with Coco Nebaker to see what the shutdown is doing to the afternoon traffic. Coco?
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, that tanker fire caused a lot of problems for this morning's commute and will continue to do so for the rest of the day. Again, we want to remind you where it is. If we can go ahead and bring up that map. I-15 is closed in both directions, northbound at 123rd South, southbound at the South I-15, I-215 interchange. Also, you will no longer be able to access I-15 if you're headed eastbound on I-215. That ramp is closed. We'll take a look at our exclusive traffic link cameras and show you how traffic is being affected right now. Our Sprinkler Road camera goes ahead and shows us right where this accident happened at 8400 South and I-15. You can see crews are on the scene still working on cleaning that up, and not a whole lot of traffic because this area is closed. If we look at the point of the mountain, we can see that traffic is still moving. Cars on the right-hand side are making their way north, not too backed up. Most of your problems are going to be when you get off on city streets. State Street is a mess through Draper, all the way to the South interchange, and also Redwood Road is looking bad. We have some video taken from early this morning that shows you just how bad things were backed up. You can see here vehicles getting off at the 90th South interchange, trying to head north into the downtown area. Stop-and-go traffic. Also, State Street was jammed from Draper to about the Fashion Place Mall. You can see here, stop-and-go, cars barely moving. And finally, the I-15, I-215 interchange was also a mess. Again, that's going to affect the afternoon commute. It's going to be closed until 6 a.m. Northbound I-15 near the 90th interchange in both directions. Carol, Shannon, back to you.
Thanks very much. Coco Nebaker from the newsroom.
Well, most would agree this is the worst traffic disaster on I-15 since construction began. Now, how tough was it for emergency vehicles to get to the scene of the crash? Was it made more difficult because of construction and lane closures? Well, we join news specialist Pamela Davis for that side of the story. Pamela?
Well, Shannon, everyone knew it was going to be more challenging to respond to accidents and disasters on I-15 once the construction started. Because of that, there is a network of roads that emergency vehicles are supposed to use to get to accidents like the one this morning. And according to everyone I've talked to this morning, the emergency plan worked. All vehicles, including Utah Highway Patrol vehicles, Sandy City Fire Department, and EMS trucks, were able to reach the scene in a timely manner. However, at least one Sandy City official says he's concerned. In November, the I-15 at 90th South is set to shut down. And he says if this kind of accident happened then, when 90th South is shut down, we'd be in a much more difficult situation.
We're worried about future construction on the 90th South interchange. If that is closed off entirely, as is now proposed, then we'll find it a lot more difficult to get emergency vehicles over here.
Now, how has this affected I-15 today? You've heard already from Angela and Coco. I've learned that trucking has been suspended on I-15 today, and at least 50 people have been assigned to move the center dividers and divert around the fire scene so that hopefully we can get some traffic flowing through here. Although, as we heard from news specialist Angela Ann, at this point they're not anticipating the freeway will be open until tomorrow morning. Shannon?
All right, Pamela, thanks. To recap our top story, a gasoline tanker exploded this morning along northbound I-15 near 86 South. The driver of that tanker died in the accident. Now, hazardous materials teams are on the scene right now, still trying to clean up the mess. Finally, I-15 is shut down both directions and will remain so for several more hours. We will have the latest on the accident coming up in about half an hour.
In other news today,
into a massive ball of fire and a column of smoke during rush hour traffic this morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Courtney Zavala in for Shauna Parsons. Thanks for joining us. We have two big stories at the top of our newscast today. One, of course, is the tanker truck fire. The other from the nation's capital, where Kenneth Starr's report on President Clinton is causing quite a stir. We'll have more from Washington, D.C. in just a moment. But first, I-15 is still closed after a major accident and explosion. This morning, a tanker truck rolled over and ignited near 84th South. Flames and smoke filled the area. We've got a team report starting with Fox 13's Scott McCain, and he's at the scene. Scott, what's the latest?
Yeah, Courtney, we're going to start with the latest, and what we have for you so far is that one man is confirmed dead, and he's a driver of one of the 3 semi-tractor trailers that were involved in this tragic accident this morning. Secondly, the fire is out, but there are still some hot spots, and I-15 is going to remain closed north and southbound lanes from 118 South north to 7200 South. And it looks like those lanes are going to remain closed probably the rest of the day while crews clean up this mess and repair some very serious road damage caused by the fire. Now, this whole thing started just after 8 this morning when a gasoline tanker truck heading south on I-15 flipped and split apart, spilling gas all over both lanes of traffic, fuel which ignited into a massive fireball. Several people narrowly missed the flames and wreckage, but as we said earlier, 3 semis were involved in the chain reaction wreck and one driver was killed. We don't know his identity yet. UHP and emergency crews then moved in and spent more than 2 hours trying to douse the flames. A fire which sent thick clouds of black smoke into the air, smoke which could be seen all across the valley. All in all, a major mess apparently caused by someone trying to cut in the traffic.
Earlier, is it safe to say this whole thing was caused by a bad driver?
Yeah, we feel, and again, we're having to re-interview some of the witnesses, and we've had reports from some of the witnesses, and that in fact it is a driver that was impatient. We have not investigated this crash totally yet, so we don't know all the things that led up to this thing, but we do believe that it was probably an impatient driver is going to be the thing that set this up.
Courtney, again, no word yet on who that driver is who may be found at fault for this wreck. Trying to get these semis off the road, get the road damage cleared up, and trying somehow, maybe today, to get I-15 reopened. And again, north and southbound lanes are going to remain closed probably for most of the rest of the day, including afternoon rush hour, from 118 South north to 7200 South. Courtney?
Scott, it sounds like they did as good a job as they could, but I understand it definitely could have been a lot worse.
Well, with all the construction being done right now, the one bright spot in all this was that it happened pretty close to the 90th South on and off ramp. And, officials here from Sandy City, from UDOT, from UHP say if they would not have had that, boy, traffic would still be backed up probably all the way into Utah County at this point. That was the only way they had, from people coming northbound especially, to get folks rerouted onto surface streets. And now, and one other bright spot in all this is that this whole wreck happened not too far from a residential area, and not many people had to be evacuated. Fox 13's Grant Wayman has more on those who were most affected by the fire. Grant?
Yeah, Scott, you mentioned that this accident did occur. Good news. Had this occurred in a highly residential area, there could have been a much larger evacuation. That, although, did not happen. Now, the biggest problem in this area was the traffic flow. Traffic on State and Redwood Road backed up still to this hour while I-15 is shut down, and of course it could be shut down well into the night tonight. No evacuations in the immediate residential area, although people who do live nearby say the flames were massive. See what you hear.
We didn't hear any crash or anything. We heard popping noises. Obviously, I thought it was construction workers until my little boy comes downstairs for breakfast and says, "Mommy, Mommy, you know, big fire." And I went and looked out the window, and it was just a wall of flames.
We're okay, were you?
Yeah, we was okay, you bet. We were just fine. But boy, it looked like the fire of hell. It was big and huge.
Big flames indeed. All right, the residents and businesses in this area now getting back to normal. I-15, though, a completely different story. Courtney?
Gosh, that's going to cause some major problems later today. Grant, how close did the flames get to the homes or businesses?
Well, officials say that actually pretty close. Those homes that you mentioned were a little further away, but there's a business just off the highway. We understand that some of the flames were sort of rolling in a ditch, got pretty close, but firefighters were nearby and were able to put it out before it caused any damage to any nearby buildings.
All right, Grant Wayman, thanks a lot for that report. Again, the I-15 freeway is closed while crews clean up the accident and make necessary repairs to the road. The work is expected to take 8 to 10 hours. Southbound drivers are being diverted off the freeway at the I-215 South interchange. Northbound drivers must exit at 1-1800 South. Your best alternatives are 13th East, State Street, and Redwood Road. But remember to give yourself extra time today. To review this midday's top story, a tanker truck headed northbound on I-15 around 85th South rolls and catches fire around 8:15 this morning. Traffic is diverted in both directions, and homes and businesses along the freeway are evacuated as a precaution. The freeway will be closed for 8 to 10 hours while the scene is being cleaned up. Well, in other news,
one swerving, speeding driver causes a deadly crash and explosion. We'll have team coverage of the accident and the impact on our lives.
I'm surprised something like that hasn't happened before. It's scary. I don't travel the freeway anymore.
The president is waiting. The American people are waiting. The internet will soon reveal the secrets of Ken Starr's report. A dangerous escape in the Utah desert. A nerve gas leak scrambles emergency crews. And it's a jungle out there. Wait till you see how this zookeeper pops the question.
And the love that I have for you, I never thought I'd feel for anybody. Stephanie, would you marry me?
You're watching KUTV, 2 News at 5.
The morning commute turns into a nightmare after a tanker truck explodes on I-15. The after effects of the crash are being felt all over the valley. Good afternoon, and that crash is our top story today.
One person is dead, the freeway still shut down, and investigators still looking for a driver who may have caused the whole thing. It happened on I-15 just north of 90th South, and we begin our team coverage with Karen Compton. She is live on the freeway this afternoon. Karen, when will the freeway be reopened?
Well, not until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, Mark. Take a look behind me. Here's what's going on. They're still moving the wreckage off of the freeway. After that's done, repairs will need to be made. Meanwhile, police are trying to track down the person who triggered the chain reaction accident. An impatient driver and a crowded freeway were the makings of a deadly accident that could be seen for miles.
When I got here, it was about 10 minutes after it started. I come in and seen just great big billows of smoke out there, and the fire was really going.
A lot of black smoke and flames coming from the freeway.
Police say a driver exiting onto a crowded 90th South ramp got tired of waiting. He swerved back into the freeway traffic lanes, cutting off a truck and triggering the chain reaction accident.
During that time, a belly dump, also traveling northbound, had to hit its brakes, which was followed by another belly dump that had to hit its brakes, which collided together, followed by a semi-tanker, which plowed into the back of those two semis. Also, there's some cars involved in this.
The tanker truck was loaded with gasoline that burst into flames. All of the vehicles burned in the raging fire for hours until firefighters could get close enough to douse the flame.
It was a tanker truck, and the back tank was on fire when I got here. And then after that, the front tank caught on fire, and it exploded a few times. I could feel the heat from over a block away from it. It was amazing.
Well, one of the gravel truck drivers was missing while the trucks were burning. After the fire was put out, they found his body inside the wreckage. Mark?
Karen, do police know anything about the driver that apparently caused the accident?
Well, they don't know who the driver is. They only know that that driver was not caught up in the accident that happened here today and simply drove away. Right now, they're looking for a small silver car. Mark?
All right, thanks. Karen Compton on I-15. The highway still shut down and causing more traffic jams this afternoon.
And the accident could not have happened at a worse time for commuters. Our team coverage continues now with Susan Boggs live on State Street. And Susan, how is the traffic there?
Well, Michelle, it's moving, but it's moving slowly.
30 starts now.
Flames shoot from the wreckage of several trucks.
One driver is killed. The mess shuts down I-15 south of 215 all day long, leading to this gridlock during rush hour.
I mean, it was bad. It was intense, and it's just something you won't forget.
And to top it off, one man is to blame, and that's our top story.
Investigators say an impatient driver caused the wreck by swerving in and out of traffic.
News 4 Utah's Doug Jardine was the first reporter on the scene at I-15 near 90th South this morning. He joins us now live with the latest. Doug?
Randall, over my left shoulder, you can see one of the last charred chassis of a semi-truck being loaded up. If you were anywhere in the Salt Lake Valley today, you knew something drastically wrong had happened here. A huge plume of smoke left 90th South and traveled northward all the way to North Salt Lake, perhaps even farther. And the saddest part of all is, it could have been avoided. Flames shot 150 feet in the air. Motorists scrambled to safety, and the heat was so intense, firefighters fought the blaze from several yards away. It all happened right after a tanker passed Val Clark. He heard a crash and then saw the fireball.
It was pretty scary. I kind of seen a light flash before my eyes. I feel bad for whoever was in that truck because I don't think they made it out. Big fireball, and if you would have went into that fireball, I don't think you'd have a chance.
One truck driver had no chance to escape and died in the fireball. And as the fire burned, investigators pieced together what happened. Just prior to the 90th South off-ramp on southbound I-15, what officials call an impatient driver swerved in and out of traffic. One semi swerved and missed the car. The next semi desperately tried to avoid hitting the first and slammed on the brakes. A tanker carrying 5,000 gallons of gasoline hit the brakes, and then a fourth semi hit the tanker. A chain reaction death trap for the driver of a construction truck in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Once you got out into my plaza area, you could hear at least 7 to 15 explosions within 10 minutes. You could just see all the people trying to maneuver off of the freeway.
And those explosions continued for some time. As an example of just how intense the fire was, at the beginning, you can see the cab of the Walker semi-truck. Just moments later, there's nothing left but exhaust pipes. It took help from the Salt Lake Airport's fire department, experienced with fuel fires, to douse the burning semis with foam and finally get the fires out. And now you're looking at what was left of the Savage truck that apparently ran into the tanker. Police this afternoon are still looking for the person responsible, and all the description they have is a small silver car. And we still don't know the identity of the truck driver killed. Randall, Kim?
As bad as it looks, Doug, is it accurate to say that this could have been worse?
Oh, Kim, it could have been incredibly worse. There was a huge fuel tanker that stopped one car length behind this accident. People got out. They backed that one up as quickly as they could. There was also a UTA bus that was only 2 car lengths behind the accident, and they backed that out of the way as quickly as they could as well. It could have been absolutely traumatic.
Incredible video. Good job, Doug. Thank you.
The tanker explosion created a traffic nightmare that isn't over yet. If you happen to be...
Dean claimed the life of a truck driver this morning. The wreck right in the middle of the morning rush hour sent this plume of black smoke into the sky. It was visible for miles. And now, almost 10 hours later, a huge stretch of I-15, both northbound and southbound, is closed. Good evening. I'm Bruce Lindsay.
And I'm Dick Norris. The accident occurred around 8:15 this morning at about 86th South and I-15.
The Highway Patrol says it appears a car cutting back into traffic to avoid the congestion at the 90th South exit may have started it all. The result, a chain reaction collision involving 3 semi-trucks and several other cars. One of the trucks was carrying gasoline. Its tank ruptured and the fuel burst into